vegetology. Today we are going to be making some vegan scones. So these are a great snack for any time of the day. I would say they're best eaten within about 24 hours of making, but they're delicious. It's not hard to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is our first couple of ingredients we need to mix together and set aside because we want them to curdle a little bit. So I've got some soya milk here, and into this I'm going to have 180 ml of soya milk. I prefer to weigh out liquids on scales as opposed to looking to markings. Oh, I've done too much there. Markings on a jug, because I feel like scales are always much more accurate. There we go, 180 ml. Okay, now into that I am going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit onto here. And we just need a teaspoon in. Okay, now I'm going to set that aside, and I'm just going to give it a little mix, and quite quickly that will start to curdle, okay? So I'm going to set that aside there, pop these aside, and we'll get our dry ingredients out. For our dry ingredients, I've already weighed these out. So I've got 400 grams of sifted self-raising flour. I've got a teaspoon of baking powder, and I've got 40 grams of Castor sugar, okay? But I'm not gonna add that in just yet. So I'm gonna give my baking powder and my flour a little mix. And then I'm gonna add in 100 grams of chopped vegan butter. So this is the Flora plant-based butter that I'm using. It's brilliant. So I've weighed out 100 grams already, and I'm just gonna cut it up into chunks and add it in. Now I'm going to need to mix it in with my fingers, so it can get a bit messy. So what I'll do is I'll add in the chunks, I'll give it a little mix, and I'll show you the consistency that you need it to be. So I'm just using the ends of my fingers to give it a mix. If you really don't like being messy, keep one hand on the side of the bowl, and with the other one, mix it through. But for speed and ease, I use both hands. Okay, so I've got that mixed, and it's more like a breadcrumb consistency now. So once that's all mixed in, I'm gonna add in 40 grams of Castor sugar and just mix that through with my fingers again. Okay, so that's perfect. I'm going to make a little well in the middle. Now at this point, my hands are going to get messy again, but I am going to give them a little wash because I'm going to stir through my wet ingredients, which you can see has already started to curdle. So can you see it's got those flecks of white bits and they're starting to curdle? That's what we're looking for, okay? So you can just see it's starting to go a little bit lumpy. Okay, so I'm going to stir that into the well in the middle, but I'll just give my hands a quick wash. Okay, so I've got all my dry ingredients in here. I've got my wet ingredients which have curdled nicely. You can see I don't know if you can see it properly, but it's lumpy now. It's got all the little white flecks in it. So first of all, I'm going to add my dry ingredients into my wet. I'm just going to do it all at once. And I'm just going to start to fold it in. We are going to get our hands a bit mucky in here in a minute. But just try and bring it together first with a spoon. Try and scoop up from the bottom. Make sure you get all of that dry mixed in nicely. Now if you are a sultana fan, I would add in sultanas now. Some people love sultanas, glacé cherries in their scones. I quite like just a scone by itself. Don't mind the fruit ones, but we're going to make these plain today. Okay, so that's coming together in quite a nice dough. I'm going to tip that out onto a clean work surface. And I'm just going to bring it together with my hands. Okay? If you feel like it's quite sticky, you can just add a bit more self-raising flour on the underneath. Okay, just give it a little knead. Nice little pat out. I might just add a tiny bit of flour so that when I'm kneading it doesn't stick. Okay, you don't want to repetitively knead this because you will make it tough. So just knead it till it comes together, and even though it looks a little bit cracked, don't worry about that. Give it a little roll out. I'm only putting quite light pressure on this, I'm not going heavy. Okay, so I go to about this thickness, which is probably about nearly 1 inch thick because I like them to rise nice and high. I've got a clean stainless steel cutter. This is a 2.5 inch circumference, diameter, circumference, 2.5 inch width, okay, 5 centimeters. But if you want to go bigger or smaller, you can, and you're just going to put them directly onto your lined baking tray. Now, if it sticks on the inside, you can just put a bit of flour on it. So far, these are okay, but I might need to add a bit of flour, yeah. The best way I find to add flour to the inside is to make a little pool of flour, put your cutter over the top and spin it round, and then it nicely coats the inside. And then they should come out very easily, like that. Now, if you like a glossy top on the top of your scone, you can, if you want, brush a little bit of soy milk over the top and it will give you a nice glossy top. But I'm going to leave these without any gloss on the top. I like them to be matte. Okay, so I've got 7 out of there, and then I'm just going to re-roll this bit of dough. Just try and bring it together. You don't really want to knead it too much. Okay, so just bring that bit together and then give it another little roll out. You should make 10 to 12 scones. Okay, there we go. You'll see the less mix you have, the harder it is to get full-size ones out. If I push that bit together, it will crack when it bakes, but that's fine. Scones don't have to look absolutely perfect. And then I'll probably get 1 more out of this. I'm not even going to roll it, I'm just going to push it with my hands. So it will be quite irregular when this one bakes, but that's okay. Okay, so there's 11 scones there, and this bit I'm just going to push together. This bit's a bit like a chef's perk. It's not going to look pretty when it comes out, but it's going to taste just as nice. So I'll pop that one. In fact, I'm going to put that one on a separate little tray because there's no room on this. Okay, now I've got my oven preheated to 180 degrees fan oven, so it's very hot because they only take 10 to 12 minutes to cook. Check them after 10. They should be nice and golden on top. And then when you lift them up and tap them on the bottom, they should sound hollow. Then you know they're cooked, okay? So I'll put that one on a separate tray. I'm gonna pop these in the oven. So my vegan scones are now out of the oven, and you can see, if you look at them, these are the ones that I didn't re-roll properly, and this was the one that was just a bit of a shape that I pushed together at the end, whereas these 9 I rolled out and I shaped much better with the cutter. So these ones would be like me, my husband, maybe me again. These would be like friends. So I'm gonna make some, what is an alternative to cream for your scones. So I'm gonna use coconut milk and icing sugar. Now I haven't shook the tin like you quite often do when you use coconut milk. Instead I've opened it and kept it quite still because I just want this nice top layer, okay? This nice set layer is the bit I'm after. Oh, can you see the liquid just underneath is just popping through? But I don't want all that liquid. I just want the set bit. Okay? You can use the liquid in smoothies, juices, soups. You know, don't waste it. You can still use it. But for this recipe, I just want the set, like the full fat bit, let's call it. Okay? So I'm going to set that to the side, and you can see that's still all the liquid in there, but I've got the majority of the set stuff in. Okay? So in here, I've got a tablespoon of sifted icing sugar, and I'm just going to carefully mix the two together. And this will make a delicious like cream. You just want to whisk it gently. Don't go too far, because a bit like when you use, you know, a cream cheese or a cream cheese alternative, it can go loose quite quickly. So you just want it to mix together so that you haven't got lumps. I might even swap to a spoon. Here we go. So I'm just going to fold it together. And then we're going to use this to spread on our scone. Nearly there. I'm actually pushing the bits that I can see that are lumps against the side of the bowl. Okay, that'll do. So I'm going to get one of my scones, cut it open. So when these scones came out, just before I cut it open, let me show you, I turned them over and I tapped the bottom, and I was listening for them to sound hollow. So once I knew they were, even though they weren't quite as golden as I wanted them on top, I knew they were cooked through. Okay, so I'm going to cut open one of my scones. Perfect. And then I'm just going to spread on some of this lovely coconut cream that I've made. So I'm going to have lovely coconut cream on one side, and on the other side I'm going to have a dollop of raspberry jam. Gorgeous. Okay, so there we have our vegan scones with our vegan cream alternative and raspberry jam. I really hope that you have a go and enjoy baking them, and if you've got any comments, please do drop them in the box below.